Welcome to the Supplier Digital Summit, the session New Supplier Experience, Ariba Network Supplier Portal and Workbench. My name is Richard Vermeij. I'm a Solution Manager at Ariba Network. And what I want to do is show you an update of the new Supplier Portal and Workbench that we've been working on, as we announced earlier during Ariba Live this year. Our intention is to transition all of the 4.5 million suppliers on the network to this new Supplier Portal once it's general available. The rollout is already happening in several early adopter waves, and it will be followed by general availability. So basically, based on account type and what part of the network solution capabilities a supplier is currently using, some suppliers may have already been selected for these early adopter waves and have been transitioned and are live on the new portal. Today, what I would like to do is cover 3 topics. I'm going to talk a little bit about the background of this investment, of this new supplier experience, basically helping suppliers to drive responsiveness, to improve responsiveness and drive efficiency. Secondly, what I want to do is demo the new supplier portal and the workbench. And then 3, talk a little bit more about the rollout, how transitioning is happening, where you can find support, and how you can provide feedback. Right, first on the background. So essentially, we have made this investment on the new supplier experience based on 2 major pieces of feedback that we've gotten from our suppliers as well as our buyers. The first one is the feedback that our engagement channels, so basically how a supplier interacts with buyers, is currently too fragmented in Ariba. Ariba has grown over multiple years and has a variety of solutions on where a supplier needs to go in order to pick up a lead or reply to a proposal or confirm a purchase order. And it mostly depends on what solution a buyer has deployed. So if a buyer has commerce automation, then a supplier will find a purchase order on the network and can flip it into an invoice. If a buyer has deployed sourcing, then an RFQ will show up under the sourcing/proposal section of Ariba. So you actually navigate to Ariba sourcing. If a buyer has deployed Ariba Supplier Lifecycle and Performance, then a registration questionnaire or a qualification questionnaire will also show up in Ariba sourcing, so under proposals and questionnaires. If a buyer uses quote automation, then for 3 bits in a buy, a lead may actually show up on discovery. So for a supplier, it hasn't always been intuitive where to navigate in order to be responsive to a supplier. So what we're doing is with this investment is essentially consolidating all these engagement channels into a single portal to improve responsiveness for the supplier, which is high value for the supplier and of course also high value to the buyer. So 3 key design intents that we have with this new supplier portal. 1, to aggregate all these channels into one, so truly make it a portal. Second is to modernize the look and feel based on the new SAP standards. And the third major design intent is to make it more personalized and efficient, because we can use the word supplier here, but as everybody knows, a supplier can be many different roles spread over different departments across a supplier organization, all the way from e-commerce for confirmation of a purchase order to treasury, who may want to look at an early payment offer. So the idea as a third design principle was to make the portal much more personalized and therefore efficient for individual roles. So what does that look like? Here's a quick preview, quite different than what you currently see on Ariba Network. Complete new look and feel, a couple of new elements in the navigation, but also new elements that we call the overview bar here with tiles and widgets. And I will cover this all in a much deeper level in the demo. This is the current view that is already available for Early Adopter Care Program participants. What we're planning is to add a number of more components towards or after GA, which is, for example, an activity feed, just like you would see in a Facebook, where you as a user can configure what activities, what tasks, or what is relevant to you, what you want to see in your activity feed in order to follow up. The second main investment has to do with manual transaction processing. So many suppliers are integrated, but maybe not for all their buyers, or some suppliers aren't yet integrated on their backend for order and invoice processing, for example. So what you've come to know from Ariba is we have what we call an inbox. You would go to the inbox and would use a search filter to essentially find documents in the inbox and then process those documents one by one. Now, this worked pretty well if you are a supplier and you just have one buyer and the buyer only has deployed commerce automation and the only thing you see is a purchase order. It gets a little bit more complex if the buyer starts deploying supply chain collaboration and you're moving to documents like items to confirm or advanced shipment notices. You use Ariba Pay and you start to see early payment offers. So the volume of documents is starting to increase and multiple departments need to react to all these different type of transaction documents. If then on top of that, the number of buyers that a supplier is connected with also increases, what essentially you see is just an exponentially growth of the number of documents in this inbox. And if we would maintain the principle that you need to go to the inbox to go find a document, what happens essentially is what one of our product managers calls the Bermuda Triangle of supply chain management. Is the document may be there, but if you don't know where to look, you may not actually find it. So what we got is quite a bit of feedback over the last years from suppliers on can we not provide a better mechanism to structure this high volume of documents that buyers need to look at or maybe even need to process in the UI. So that investment resulted in the new Supplier Workbench, which is a much more personalized, guiding, and efficient method to provide access to all the documents in the inbox, in basically the network. And so what you see here is the new view, the new UI. It has things like tiles. It has a table with all the documents where you can configure what you see as well as how you see it, and then directly take action in line from the entry on the right side where you see actions. But I'll demo more of this. So again, the overall principles of the investment is to provide not just a new UI, but a more guided, more efficient way for supplier users to work with the portal, especially as the number of documents are increasing, and to make it much more role-based. Right, let me demo these two new investments, New Supplier Portal and Workbench. What you see here is your trusted Ariba Network homepage. So this is what we currently refer to as the classic homepage. If you as a supplier, if your ANID is enabled with this new supplier experience, the next time that you log in, what would happen is that your experience is transitioned to the new supplier experience. So when you log in, you'll see the new supplier experience, the new homepage, as well as the new workbench. So just a couple of points on this transition. There is no migration of documents. Like all your documents stay where they are. You don't need to learn any new transaction pages or dialogues. They also remain the same. What is changing, what you need to learn is basically three things. How to navigate using the new menu and the homepage capabilities. You need to learn on how to customize the homepage and the workbench to align it with your role and on how you work, and how to find help, documentation, and get access to support. So that's also what I want to demo right now. So first, let's look at the homepage. So what you see here is, first of all, a new UI. Right, it's consistent with the SAP guidelines. So the same shell bar here on the top, you'll see that in other cloud solutions as well. We have here the solution navigator. So from the network, I can navigate to discovery or proposals and contracts. Then on the right side, what you see is the settings. So I now have my own personal settings as well as my company settings. So my account settings and my network settings, all under this one icon here, my personal settings. Then the other thing that is new here is the Web Assistant. So the Web Assistant is natively integrated with this page, and it will provide contextual help. So directly here from the Web Assistant, what I can see, what is relevant in the page here is, for example, purchase orders and invoices, and it will directly show me help articles relevant to this page. I can search on help specific help topics, as well as directly access, for example, videos that we've created to help a user quickly understand how in the new supplier portal they can access their invoices and access the orders and create invoices. All the things that are new here is we have the ability to provide a guided tour. So you can click on that guided tour and it will walk you through the different capabilities on the home page on how to fulfill a specific task. And then lastly here, what is new? Overview of new supplier portal with, again, for example, a video where you can quickly see what are the new capabilities compared to, for example, the classic portal. So that's all under here, under the Web Assistant. What you can also do here is directly click on documentation, which gives you access to the help.sap.com with all the documentation for the new supplier portal. And if you click on support, it will directly navigate to the existing help center. And here on the Help Center, you can, again, as you already may have used before, you can search for help articles. You can go to the learning section, as well as click on support, where you can type in, for example, questions where you need help on. I'm trying to respond to an RFQ. This doesn't help me. And from here, I can either find help with live chat or can request for a callback. So this is all directly available in the Help Center. Okay, now let's look at the menu. So on the menu bar here, the two most important changes are that we've replaced inbox and outbox with direct access to the actual document types. So I can directly go to orders and find my orders and releases page. And this is a known page. You've seen that before, but it used to be under the inbox. I can go back to the homepage, to the menu. I can also go to invoices, and under invoices, I still have my invoices, credit memos, etc. A new menu entry here is fulfillment. So a number of the menu items that you used to be find on inbox and outbox are now grouped here under fulfillment. Then moving to the right, so what we've done, create still exists. So I can directly create a PO invoice or a non-PO invoice, and other capabilities are here under the More button. So for example, under Outbox, we used to have pending queue. That is now under Track here under the More button. And the same thing for CSV uploads, downloads, so the template here, for example, for order confirmations and ship notices. Next thing I want to cover here is the search bar. So we made a small change in the search bar. We now have the ability for a user to select whether they want to use exact match, which is the default function, or partial match. Exact match can search on any document and has a time period or time window of the last 365 days, so the last year. And if you select partial match, you can search for documents, and then the time range depends. For example, for orders, it's 31 days, and for invoices, it's the last 90 days. Underneath here now, what is new is the overview bar. In the overview bar, what I can find is tiles that immediately show me the different type of documents that are available in the network and that I may want to pay attention to. So these are user configurable. And by default, we show 5 tiles, and you can configure other tiles by changing the configuration in the workbench. And I will actually demo that a little bit later. So if I, for example, directly want to see what are all the orders over the last 90 days that are available for me, all I need to do is click on that tile, and it brings me to the workbench table that shows all my orders. So similar as what you had in orders and releases with search, Now what I do is simply just click on the order tile on the workbench. And all of this can be configured. Again, I will show that a little bit later. Going back to the home page. Underneath the tiles bar, what we have is the area that we call my widgets. And these are basically all role-based widgets that help users to focus on what's most relevant for their role right from their homepage. So what we have, for example, here is leads. So leads shows me all the leads that my company is matched to based on my company profile that normally all are on Ariba Discovery. But I don't have to go to Ariba Discovery to check if there are any leads, or I don't have to look at my email inbox to see if there's any notification. If I'm, for example, in outside sales, I can have this widget directly on my homepage, and I can see that these leads are available to me. So if I would click on one of these leads, it would bring me to Ariba Discovery, and I can respond to the lead. Another widget that we have available here is an insight, what we call an insight widget. So for example, purchase orders. It directly shows me the purchase order volume over time. So here selected last 3 months for all my customers, which introduces this idea here of the customer chooser. So what I can do is select either a single customer or all customers. And the way this is configured is that all the insight widgets respond to the customer chooser. So if I have multiple insight widgets, what I can do is, for example, if I'm on a phone call with a customer IBD, it will only show me the purchase order volume for that specific customer. And other widgets that respond to the same, other widgets respond similar to the customer chooser. Now, I can actually configure these my widget area as well. So these widgets are basically available from a library that I can access by clicking on Customize. And from there, I can pick up new widgets like invoice aging and drag and drop them in the order that I want them to be displayed on my homepage. So here, if I, for example, am responsible for accounts receivable, then invoice aging may be relevant to me and my leads is not that relevant to me. So I pick up this widget, pin it to my homepage and save this configuration. So immediately I see that invoice aging is available as a widget for me on my homepage. The third one I wanted to mention here, the third type here is our application gateway. This was introduced mid this year, and it essentially allows buyers to configure a single sign-on link and publish it to either all their suppliers or to very specific suppliers. So what that means is for a supplier that if this is configured by a buyer and it points to a third-party application, a supplier user can simply click on this link and through Ariba Network single sign-on can access a third-party application. But again, to mention, this needs to be configured by the buyer on the network. The last major investment I want to talk about here is the Workbench. So as I showed earlier, you can directly access the Workbench by clicking on a tile here, for example, new orders, and it brings you to the Workbench view, to the table view, or directly navigate from the Workbench tab under the menu. So here what you see is the different tiles and the different tables that are available in the Workbench. And what you can do as a user is you can configure what you see and how you see it. So for example, for new orders, what I can do is I can edit the filter and say, I want to see all new orders. You see here, new status, order status new for only one customer. And I want to see over the last 365 days. And when I apply that, that will directly show up in the table. Now, if I want to keep this, if I want to persist this for the next time I visit the Workbench, I can save this filter and basically call it or change the subtitle of the filter and call it IBD last 365 days. So as a user, I can configure these styles to my own needs. I can not only configure the filter, what I see, what I can also change is how I see the information. So for example, if ship to address is not relevant for me, but order address, because the way in our ERP system we look at orders is by ordering address, is I can apply that and that becomes visible and it remains sticky. So the next time I go to this tile, it will have the same saved filter and it will have the configuration of what I see through settings still saved as well. The last part that I wanted to show here is where do these tiles come from. So these tiles, when we ship, the workbench by default has 6 tiles. And what you can do is by going to the configuration, you can add more tiles. You can add up to 12 tiles. So for example, if I'm an SEC supplier and I want to, for example, show schedule line items to confirm, then I can add that here as a tile, or I can remove it. I can add tiles like scheduled payments, early payments, and remittances if I work in accounts receivable. So I've added a tile now, applied it, so it becomes visible. I've scheduled line items to confirm. And again, I can do the same as what I showed before. I can change the filters. For example, which customers. I want to see 2 customers, and I want a need by date of the next year. Apply this filter, and then save the filter, for example, for our 2 key customers. Last thing I wanted to show you is you can change the order as well. So if I'm in supply chain, maybe schedule line items to confirm is the most important work that I do on a day-to-day basis in Ariba network. So I can pull this to the first place, which means that when I log in to my homepage, again, I don't have to go to inbox and do a search. Immediately I see for our two key customers, we have 10 schedule line items that I need to work on that need to be confirmed. The last thing I want to talk about in this presentation is how we roll out this new supplier portal and workbench to our supplier base. As I said earlier, our intention is for all 4.5 million suppliers to be migrated from the existing classic portal to the new portal once it's GA. What we are doing is already releasing this functionality as part of an early adopter wave. And we've started earlier this year to target specific suppliers based on what functionality they use from the new portal, as well as what account type they have. So if your account is part of an early adopter wave, what you'll see is, or what you'll notice is that, first of all, we will notify your administrator through an email that the new supplier portal is being rolled out to your account, and we send that notification 7 days before to the admin, and again, a reminder 1 day. On the notification, what we have done is point to a supplier self-enablement page that looks like this. And on the self-enablement page, what we've done is provided videos that are easy for a user to consume. They're like 3 or 4 minute videos where we outline what is new in the supplier portal. So the changes to the UI and the menu, how you can customize your homepage. So for example, the different widgets. If you need to find your orders and invoices, the different paths, the different navigation paths you can take to do so, as well as how to personalize this transaction workbench to make it fit to your specific needs on how you work on a daily basis. So this is very easy to consume, takes about 12, 15 minutes. And we have these videos actually available in multi-language. So you can switch to another language if needed, and you can find the videos where they'll have the localized language subtitles to the video. Finally, there's one more key element of this transition that I wanted to mention here is the Back to Classic button on the shell bar. For any user at any point in time, if they in the new supplier experience, but either can't find the navigation or maybe the system is slow at that point in time, a user can click on Back to Classic, and what it will do is it will directly bring the supplier user back to the Classic experience for that specific user session. So just like they were in the existing Classic Ariba portal homepage. So as mentioned, this is only for the specific user session. So it's not an opt-in, opt-out. It means that next time I log out from my session, and once I log in again to the new supplier portal, you are back into the default, which is new supplier portal. But just in case, if a user gets stuck or the performance is slow, or a user may not have had time to see the videos or to read through any of the preparation documentation, there is a Back to Classic button to make sure that the transition can go as smooth as possible. And then the last comment, we also now provide a feedback tab on the site, where we encourage supplier users to provide feedback. We've made this investment from all our suppliers. We're hearing it's in the right direction. It's providing them much more flexibility to tailor their experience to their specific role and how they want to process transactions on the network. But we always like to hear from as many supplier users as possible. With that, I want to end this session and looking forward to sharing more on the new supplier portal and the workbench in the near future.